What if I told you that the woman the world calls a saint deliberately let people die in agony because she believed their suffering was beautiful? Mother Teresa, the name itself sounds holy. The tiny nun in the white and blue, cradling dying children in the slums of Calcutta. Nobel Peace Prize winner, canonized as Saint Teresa of Calcutta in 2016. For decades, she was the living embodiment of selfless compassion. Her missionaries of charity grew to over 4,000 nuns running orphanages, hospices, and homes for the dying across 133 countries. She became one of the most beloved figures of the 20th century. But what if almost everything you think you know about Mother Teresa is wrong? The woman born Agnes Gongshe Boyaxiu in 1910 arrived in India as a young nun in 1929. She taught at a school in Calcutta until 1946, when she claimed to receive a call from God to serve the poorest of the poor. In 1952, she opened her first home for the dying, Collegiate Home for the Dying, in a former Hindu temple. The official story says she rescued people from the streets and gave them dignity in death. Donations poured in from around the world, millions upon millions of dollars. The Catholic Church celebrated her as proof of God's love made manifest. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. In the 1990s, journalists and medical professionals began investigating Mother Teresa's facilities. What they found was horrifying. Dr. Robin Fox, editor of the respected medical journal The Lancet, visited her homes in 1994. His report was damning. Needles were reused over and over without sterilization. Tuberculosis patients whose disease is highly treatable were given aspirin. People with curable conditions died because they received no real medical care. The facilities were clean, yes, but cleanliness isn't medicine. The most disturbing revelation: Mother Teresa and her nuns deliberately withheld pain medication from dying patients. We're not talking about a shortage of morphine. The medication was available. They chose not to use it. When asked about the screams of agony echoing through her facilities, Mother Teresa said something chilling. She said there was something beautiful in seeing the poor accept their suffering. She believed pain brought people closer to Jesus Christ. She called suffering a gift from God. Let that sink in. While treatable patients died in agony on thin mats, while people with operable conditions were left to rot, Mother Teresa was telling the world that their suffering was beautiful. She built her reputation on proximity to death, not prevention of it. And here's the truly shocking part. When Mother Teresa herself fell ill, she didn't choose beautiful suffering. She flew to California for treatment at Scripps Clinic and Research Foundation. She received cutting-edge cardiac care at a hospital in Rome. The best doctors, the best facilities, pain medication, certainly the suffering she praised for others. She rejected for herself. But the questions don't stop with medical care. Where did the money go? By the time of her death in 1997, Mother Teresa's organization had received hundreds of millions of dollars in donations, perhaps over $1 billion. The Vatican's own investigation during her beatification process couldn't account for the vast majority of these funds. Her facilities remained primitive, medical care non-existent, conditions squalid. German magazine Stern reported that of the 53 facilities they examined in the Calcutta area, only one had a qualified doctor. Mother Teresa didn't build hospitals with that money. She built missions. Her goal wasn't healing, it was conversion. Critics documented that baptisms were performed on dying Hindus and Muslims without their knowledge or consent. When natural disasters struck, the missionaries of charity would arrive not with doctors or rebuilding supplies, but with crucifixes and baptismal fonts. Then there's the company she kept. In 1992, Charles Keating, an American banker, was convicted of fraud and racketeering. He'd stolen over $250 million from 17,000 investors, many of them elderly people who lost their life savings. Years earlier, he donated $1.25 million to Mother Teresa. She accepted it. She praised him publicly. When he was convicted, the prosecutor wrote to Mother Teresa asking her to return the stolen money to the victims. She never responded. She never returned a cent. She also accepted awards and money from Jean-Claude Duvalier, the brutal dictator of Haiti known as Baby Doc, whose regime tortured and murdered thousands. She praised the Duvaliers for their love of the poor. This was the same regime that stole millions from Haiti's treasury while the population starved. Christopher Hitchens, the journalist who became her most prominent critic, called her a fraud. He said she wasn't a friend of the poor. She was a friend of poverty. She didn't want to help people escape suffering. She wanted them to endure it, and perhaps he had a point. In her own writings, Mother Teresa expressed deep doubts about her faith. Private letters published after her death revealed decades of spiritual darkness. She wrote that heaven felt empty to her, that God felt absent, that she smiled and preached faith while feeling nothing inside. So what do we do with this? How do we reconcile the saintly image with the documented reality? Mother Teresa did pull dying people from the gutters of Calcutta. She did touch the untouchable. She did dedicate her entire adult life to the poor, living simply herself, owning nothing. Her personal austerity was genuine. The question is whether good intentions without competent care, whether spiritual mission without medical ethics, whether global admiration built on unexamined myths, whether any of that actually serves the suffering, the Catholic Church made her a saint anyway. They acknowledged the criticisms during the canonization process and deemed them irrelevant. To them, her spiritual contribution outweighed everything else. With those who died in unnecessary pain, those whose suffering was called beautiful instead of treated, those whose donations disappeared into an unaccountable system, they might tell a different story. Mother Teresa remains a symbol, but symbols can blind us. The world needed her to be perfect, so we ignored the evidence that she wasn't. Maybe the real lesson of Mother Teresa isn't about her at all. It's about us. About how desperately we want heroes. About how we'll overlook almost anything if someone tells us the story we want to hear. The question isn't whether Mother Teresa was a saint or a fraud. Human beings are too complex for those categories. The question is whether we're honest enough to see the whole truth, even when it shatters beautiful lies.